Greetings and welcome to the Fan Perspective. I'm your host Nathan Lyle, and these are my WNBa mid-season power rankings. It's a little bit different from what I usually do. Usually I try to predict where a team is going to finish. This isn't necessarily that as much as I'm ranking the teams in order of how scary they are and who's going to win the most games in the second half of the year alone. It's hard to tell what some of their records might be, but I'm ranking them basically in order from the one that you wish you could play every night to the one that you never want to see if you can help it. So we're starting with number 12, which for very obvious reasons, it's the San Antonio Stars. Anyone who's shocked by that, you haven't been paying attention at all, ever. Like, this is the first video of mine that you've ever watched, and you've never actually seen a WNBa game in your life, ever. I predicted that the San Antonio Stars would probably get the number 1 overall pick in next year's draft as well. And it looks like they're going out of their way to do that. Now, they've actually played better as the season wore on. You see Kelsey Plum, she's healthy now, she's getting more comfortable. You know, her scoring and assisting has gone up. You're seeing a lot of growth with this team. You know, if they can stay healthy and improve their chemistry, they can surprise a few people down the stretch, but I still don't see them winning 10 games this year. At number 11, I've picked the Indiana Fever. I thought that they would probably struggle a little bit. Wasn't sure about them getting to the playoffs to begin with, but recently they've just fallen off horribly. Case in point, San Antonio has only won 3 games this year. 2 of them have been against Indiana. That's bad. Who knows, maybe the All-Star break will give them a chance to right the ship and just correct a few things, get back on that winning track. And they've got some teams on their schedule that are banged up and whatnot, so they might be able to stack a few wins together, but honestly, the way they've been playing lately, I just have zero confidence in them. Next up at number 10, I've got the Atlanta Dream. They've played well so far this season, but they've had one of the easiest seasons of any team in the league, and they still struggle just to get above 500. And their schedule is only going to get harder as the season goes on. They've got some great players on their team, 3 of which made the All-Star game. But I have trouble putting any real faith in them. They've shown me nothing to say that they can consistently beat the best of the best. In all fairness, I may be judging them too harshly. My opinion was pretty low to begin with, but they've done nothing to change my mind. There are other teams that their play has changed my mind. Either they've changed my mind about how good they can be because of how horribly they played, or they've changed my mind about how bad they'd be because of how well they ended up playing. Atlanta's done nothing to change my mind. I put at number 9 the Dallas Wings. I think that I would not be shocked to see them in the playoffs. I just have trouble expecting them to be in the playoffs because, yes, I've seen them beat some of the best teams in the league, but I've also seen them lose to some of the worst. They seem to be competitive in almost every single game, but one way or another, they find ways to put some long losing streaks together. I have trouble seeing this team finishing above 500. At number 8, I've put the Seattle Storm, and the main reason that I put them so low is because I don't know what the hell is wrong with them, so I have no idea how the hell to fix it. I'm not necessarily a basketball genius, but they're one of the most disappointing teams just because they have enough talent. I expect them to be fairly dominant. Yes, it's a really tough league, but they're capable of fighting off some of the best. And they simply they keep finding ways to lose. Most of it has to do with their road struggles. If they can correct that, they can still be a top 5 team. But then at number 7, you have the Phoenix Mercury, and the only reason they dropped this low is because they lost Griner for an entire month. She might not play at all before the playoffs get here. They still got a Hall of Famer in Taurasi, but with Griner, Griner can put up 30-point scoring and get you 4 blocks. Hell, she's had 10 blocks in her career. So you're losing your best offensive playmaker and your best defensive playmaker. So Taurasi, she can make up for the points, but who's going to get in that middle and clog the lanes? Nobody can do it quite like she does. So with Griner out, you expect their defense to suffer, and then their offense, which has to make up for that, but it's going to be twice as hard without their leading scorer, the league's leading scorer. I think they're a good enough team with enough experience and enough playmaking. They can stack a few wins together, especially against a lot of the lesser opponents. But it's hard for me. I see, at least with Griner being out, they'll probably keep floating around 500. finish with a good enough record to get into the playoffs, and probably much like last year, end up surprising a few people with some shocking road wins. Next up, we've got 4 Eastern Conference teams in a row. Let's see if you can guess the order. We're starting at number 6 with the New York Liberty. This is a team very talented on both sides of the ball. They simply haven't been living up to their potential. But they've got great coaching, a great leader in Tina Charles. Kia Stokes had a great start to the season. If she can get some of that confidence back, start playing to that skill level again, they get a lot more dangerous. They've got a tremendous supporting cast around their star. They've got all the ingredients for success. They just have to translate it onto the court. Next up at number 5, you've got the Chicago Sky. Well, do I actually think they can get as high as 5? Well, yes, I think it is potentially possible. I mean, just because of how horribly they started the season, 20 wins, not really a possibility. But I do think they're an incredibly talented team, and you see the way they've been playing recently, with Vandersloot really finding her groove, becoming the leader that she needs to be, and with her improved playmaking, Allie Quigley, Stephanie Dosen, you see that their play has improved, and they were already a solid team because of their length. They were able to, like I've said this before, they blocked a lot of shots. They were able to get their hands in and sneak away some steals. They were one of the league leaders in rebounds. This is a team that is capable of competing with anybody, and I think they're finally living up to their potential, but they've got a huge deficit to overcome. That being said, going into the All-Star game, we saw them winning like 5 of their last 6. We saw including wins against the number 1 and number 2 seed, the Sparks and the Lynx. I can understand people not having faith in Chicago. I completely lost faith in them for a while. But the way that they've played recently, in these past couple of weeks, the wins that they've put together, I have confidence in them beating anybody. At number 4, I picked the Washington Mystics. Taylor Hill out for the season. That's definitely going to hurt them. But Elena Delle Donne, her injury doesn't seem to be that serious. It seems like they're resting her more as precautionary, and she should be back for the entire second half of the year. Barring any additional injuries or another flare-up of her Lyme disease, which, knock on wood, hopefully that doesn't happen. Because as long as she's available and giving MVP performances, this is a team that can still dominate just about any opponent, especially with Kristi Toliver hitting her stride. And as the chemistry continues to improve, you see Misa, she's been playing much better recently. So this is a team, they've lost some playmaking with Hill, and that affects their depth as well. But they've got enough weapons that they can still put a strong run in the second half of the year. Then we move on to number 3, the team that I expect to win the Eastern Conference, the Connecticut Sun. Much like the Sky, horrible start to the year, but they look like they could actually challenge for that 1 and 2 spot. They still have to hope for the Lynx and Sparks to lose a bunch of games in order for them to make up that ground. But it is possible. It's possible that a team that started the year as one of the worst in the league, started the year in 11th place, has now jumped up to number 3 and could potentially sneak into that 2nd or even number 1 seed if fortune favors them. They've had some major breakout playmakers who went to the All-Star game and put on tremendous performances. They're talented on offense, defense. They got a good coach who really knows how to get the best out of his players. And then, of course, I'm pretty sure you can probably predict what 2 and 1 are. Number 2, the defending champion Sparks. Number 1, the Minnesota Lynx. And you can probably guess why I put them there. The exact same reason I put them there in my preseason power rankings, in my all-season power rankings. These are just 2 very dominant teams led by Hall of Famers. I put the Lynx number 1 just because they're stacked at all 5 positions. Too much experience, such tremendous chemistry. You've had that core together for so long. And Sylvia Fowles looking like she could be an MVP soon. And Sparks, they're only number 2 because the Lynx are number 1. Speaking of MVP, I just want to give out some mid-season awards. These are the people who, so far, based on their performances in the first half of the year, I think they deserve some recognition. First of all, Sylvia Fowles. I think she's a leading candidate for both MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. Now, there are plenty of other people out there who are deserving of this, like Jonquel Jones. She's made a hell of an impact for her team. Vandersloot, if she had been here all year and putting up these numbers, she'd be a candidate. There are a lot of people worthy of it, but for me, it's definitely Sylvia Fowles. She's carrying the Minnesota Lynx, and especially with Griner injured now, that hurts her case. You know, Sylvia, all year long, she's been in the top 3 in the league in scoring, rebounding, blocks, steals. She's just the total package. She's carrying this team right now, which is just unbelievable when you consider the fact that you got Maya Moore on the same roster. And I'd love to see her win both MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. If she did, she would be the first person to do it since Lauren Jackson in 2007, over 10 years ago. Surprisingly, Tamika Catchings never did that. The one year that she got MVP was the only time that she didn't win the Defensive Player of the Year. It's amazing how that happens. I mean, 6th Woman of the Year, no fucking clue. The lineups keep changing all year long. Off the top of my head, I can't think of too many people who have been coming off the bench all season and giving that production. Most improved, there are so many deserving people. Griner, she's improved her scoring so much. She's taken over as the leader of that team. You've got both Jonquel Jones, the leading rebounder in the league, the double-double machine, and Alyssa Thomas improving her all-around game. I mean, that woman looks like she's going to have a quadruple-double at some point in her career. There are plenty of people who could get it, but I want it to be like one of those 3. Because especially Jones and Thomas, just because they went from basically nobodies. You expect them to be supporting cast to Chanae when she comes back. You know, they're expected to hold down the fort, and now suddenly, oh my God, they're all-stars and they're carrying that team to the playoffs. Rookie of the Year, it looks pretty obvious that it's going to be Kayla Davis. She's been a 2-time Rookie of the Month. I feel she came out day one looking like a leader, and she was just very ready for the spotlight. I think it'll take a lot to unseat her. Like if Kelsey Plum averaged a double-double from now to the rest of the season, she might have a shot, but I don't see that happening. And then, of course, Coach of the Year, it has to be Kurt Miller. He took a Suns team that I think very few people expected them to make the playoffs. I think most people were like, oh, Chanae's injured again, so we're going to have to be patient another year while we wait for their star to come back before they can be a real team. And now suddenly he's got 3 superstars. And like this is a guy that's just definitely making the most of the roster that he has. And he has them playing well in every aspect of the game. Kurt Miller, in my opinion, is the most deserving of that head Coach of the Year award. So yeah, that's it for my mid-season power rankings. Sorry if it felt a little rushed. I fell behind schedule because life happens. Be sure to tune in because right after I edit and upload this, I'm going to record the next episode of WNBa Weekly. So until then, this has been the Fan Perspective. I'm your host, Nathan Lyle. Hope you have a good hour because you're going to see me again very soon.